The emergency beacon cut through the void like a scream, reaching the outer monitoring stations of the Terran defense grid 3 days before the ship itself appeared on their scanners. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, watching the battered vessel limp through the asteroid belt that marked humanity's territorial boundary. "Ma'am, they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies," Communications Officer Torres reported. "Universal peace codes, medical emergency. Signals and something else. The computer's having trouble translating it." "Let me hear it," Chen ordered, the bridge filled with a haunting melodic sound, part song, part digital transmission. Even through the static and alien modulation, something in it tugged at Chen's chest. It sounded like grief. "Analysis complete," Torres said, his voice subdued. "The untranslatable portion appears to be the funeral dirge. They're mourning something, Captain." Chen studied the alien vessel on her view screen. It was elegant despite its damage, flowing lines that reminded her of coral formations but scarred by weapon burns and hull breaches, hastily patched with what looked like salvaged materials from a dozen different ship designs. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian hegemony. They're demanding we turn over any refugee vessels to their custody immediately." Chen's jaw tightened. The Zephyrians were humanity's most powerful neighbors, not allies exactly, but trading partners who barely tolerated human expansion into this sector. "Tell them we'll review their request through proper diplomatic channels," she said. "In the meantime, we're responding to a medical emergency." As the Resilience approached the damaged ship, its true size became apparent. What had looked like a small craft was actually massive, nearly a third the length of Chen's own heavy cruiser. The realization hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't just a ship. It was an Ark. The first shuttle that docked brought Dr. Elena Vasquez and her medical team back with news that changed everything. "Captain," Vasquez reported via comm, her voice tight with controlled anger. "We have approximately 800 refugees aboard. This vessel, men, women, children, if those terms even apply to their species. They call themselves the Kethmori." Chen had never heard the name before. "What's their condition?" "Malnourished, exhausted, traumatized. The adults won't stop apologizing for existing. And the younglings, God, Sarah, the younglings won't even make eye contact with us. They've been conditioned to expect violence from any authority figure." "What happened to them?" "As near as I can tell from the translator, they were exiled from Zephyrian space for the crime of being different. The Kethmori are apparently a minority population that developed differently from their parent species, different enough to be considered genetically deviant by Zephyrian law." Chen closed her eyes. She'd read the historical files about humanity's own darkest chapters: ethnic cleansing, genocide, the systematic persecution of those deemed other. She'd hoped the galaxy might be better than that. "Captain," Torres interrupted, "the Zephyrian fleet is moving to intercept. 3 heavy cruisers, ETA 40 minutes. Chen looked at her senior staff. She saw her own resolve reflected in their faces. "Begin emergency evacuation procedures. Get those refugees onto our ships immediately." "Ma'am," her first officer said, "carefully. The Zephyrians have made it clear that harboring these people would be considered an act of aggression." "Let them consider it whatever they want," Chen replied. "We don't abandon refugees to die." The next 30 minutes became a logistical miracle. Every transport shuttle in the small fleet worked frantically to ferry the Kethmori to safety. Chen watched through the observation deck as families clutched each other, their 6-limbed forms moving with exhausted grace despite their obvious fear. One of the refugees, an elderly male based on his body language, approached her through the crowd. His translator device crackled as he spoke. "Human Leader Chen," the device rendered his speech in halting English, "we bring only burden to your kind. Why do you risk war anger from the hegemony power for us strangers?" Chen studied his face, angular features with large, expressive eyes that held depths of intelligence and sorrow. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. The translator worked both ways, and she watched his eyes widen as her words reached him. Right thing, he repeated in broken English as if tasting the concept. Your people have word for this action when stranger species is helped. We call it humanity, Chen said. When the Zephyrian fleet arrived, they found the human vessels arranged in a defensive formation around the refugee ship. Captain Chen opened a channel to the lead Zephyrian cruiser. This is Captain Chen of the Terran vessel Resilience. The beings you're pursuing have requested asylum under human protection. We're prepared to grant it. The Zephyrian commander's response was swift and cold. Captain Chen, those criminals belong to us. Interfering with internal hegemony justice will have consequences. Then I guess we'll face those consequences, Chen replied. But we won't turn away people in need. The standoff lasted 6 hours. In the end, it was resolved not by force but by bureaucracy. The one thing humans had perfected beyond any other species in the galaxy. Chen's diplomatic team had spent the time frantically filing paperwork, invoking obscure interstellar law, and basically drowning the Zephyrians in red tape until they withdrew in frustration. 6 months later, Chen visited the colony world where the Keth Mori had settled. New Geneva was a frontier world, harsh but beautiful, where humans had learned to scratch out a living from stubborn soil and endless determination. The Keth Mori had adapted with surprising speed. Their natural biotechnology had revolutionized human agriculture, while human engineering had given them tools they'd never dreamed of. Children of both species played together in the settlement's central plaza, their laughter mixing into something entirely new. The same elderly male who had spoken to Chen during the evacuation approached her again. His English had improved dramatically. Captain Chen, he said with formal precision, my people have learned much from humans in these months. We understand now why you helped us. Oh? And why is that? His expression shifted into something that might have been a smile on his alien features. Because when humans see someone who needs help, you do not ask, what species are you? You ask, how can we help? This is what makes humans human. Chen looked out over the thriving settlement, watching former refugees and human colonists work side by side to build something neither could have created alone. The Zephyrians had called the Keth Mori genetically deviant. Humanity had called them neighbors. Perhaps that more than any weapon or warship was humanity's greatest strength. The radical idea that everyone deserved a chance to belong somewhere under the vast canopy of stars. As the twin suns of New Geneva set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Chen smiled. The galaxy was a big place with room enough for all kinds of different people to call it home.